Hi, and welcome to this second issue of the Aragnes podcast. I am Torgeir Fjell. Aragnes Center for Philosophy and the Arts is grounded on a distinct approach to knowledge and belief. Key to this approach is the sense in which the German Ereignis can be taken to mean event or happening. Rather than a fixed catalogue of facts, knowledge then arrives to us like an event. On Friday, June the 11th, we host the first Aragnes conference to investigate what it means to know and what it means to know oneself. The conference is called Being an Event and is open for up to 100 participants. You can sign up for a free seat through our website, and our call for papers is also open until April the 15th. For this podcast, we talked to one of the keynote speakers, Dr. Mehdi Parsa, about the conference theme. Mehdi lives and works in Germany, where he is conducting research on the event with the University of Bonn. Your name is Mehdi Parsa.
Yes.
It's a bit unusual name. Where does that name take us? Where do you come from, Mehdi?
I'm coming from Iran.
Iran, okay.
Yes.
And what brought you to Germany?
So I'm doing a PhD in philosophy at the University of Bonn.
You write about Gilles Deleuze and the event. Can you tell us a little bit about how you see that connection?
So I'm working on the book Logic of Sense, and Deleuze's philosophy of the event is in this book. So appears in this book. So the book is the book of the event. So I mean, and the second half of the book deals with kind of philosophical theory of the event, but the first half gives a reading of this notion of the event in Stoic philosophy, in a Stoic logic.
For this upcoming conference, you are preparing a keynote address on the relation between the event and the subject in Western philosophy. How do you see this connection, Mehdi?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for inviting me as a keynote to this conference. And so currently I'm working on a paper which is going to be presented in the conference. And this paper is on Deleuze and Guattari's book, Anti-Oedipus. And in this paper, I'm going to read the book Anti-Oedipus from a kind of ethical point of view. So I want to follow Michel Foucault's suggestion that this is a book of ethics. But regarding the notion of event, I want to make a link between the ethical aspect of Anti-Oedipus and the Stoic ethics, which is discussed in Logic of Sense. And I, as told you, the notion of event essentially appears in Deleuze's reading of Stoic ethics. So this is my departure point, to read these two lines of thought together. And so in Anti-Oedipus, the central notion is the notion of desire. And what is very interesting for me is that Deleuze and Guattari repeat during the book that desire produces at the level of reality. So they are responding Kant's formula in Critique of Practical Reason, that desire produces its object. But for Kant, desire produces at the level of the imaginary. So desire produces imaginary object. But it's a kind of controversial claim that desire produces at the level of the real. What does it mean that desire produces the real object? So
this is something we will learn more about in your presentation.
Yes, of course, yeah. But just to put it very shortly, I want to take this as a departure point to reformulate what can be called transcendental unconscious. And this transcendental unconscious would be exterior, so would be at the level of the real, not the imaginary and not the symbolic in Lacan's term. And then this exteriority brings me to the notion of the event, because the event is something in the terminology of logic of sense. The event is something which is, first of all, outside of my subjectivity, and it forms my subjectivity from without. So I face with an external event, and this encounter with the event constitute my subjectivity. So this is the viewpoint of Anti-Oedipus. I want to take this exteriority as transcendental unconscious and the desire at the level of the real, So this link, this connection is very interesting for me, is the central point of the paper that I'm working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mehdi also gave a very interesting perspective on the difference between Deleuze's view on the event and the event in the much debated philosophy of Alain Badiou. But first, several of our listeners have asked who it is that performs the theme music we hear on our Aragnes multimedia presentations. And the answer is that the music is made and performed by a Scottish musician who goes under the name of Combo. We'll play a longer part of his track Coffee before we return to Mehdi's response to our question about Badiou and the event. The philosopher Alain Badiou holds that there are no events in nature and that events can only happen in the historical field. We asked Mehdi how Badiou's perspective differs from his.
So this is what distinguishes Deleuze's theory of the event and Badiou's theory of the event. Because for Badiou, the event signifies some particular points in human history, for example, or in human experience. But For Deleuze, contrarily, everything is an event. So just to put it very simply, everything is an event. So it shouldn't be, for example, something huge, something important for our history, something significant. Everything is an event. But, there is something in my experience, in my everyday experience, there is something which is prior to recognition, to, for example, knowledge. When I face something, a very small experience, an ordinary experience, when I face it, there is a moment in which it is not yet recognized. So I'm at the level of an encounter, but not at the level of recognition, And on that level, that thing is an event, not yet a thing, not yet an object, which can be recognized, So, for Deleuze, so I would say that Deleuze's theory of the event is a transcendental theory in the Kantian sense, because Deleuze deals with the conditions of experience, the conditions of everyday experience, the conditions of all experience, And so he seeks what in our experience is or defines the pure externality. So what is exterior to my subjectivity? So what is subjective can be defined in terms of recognition, but the event is not reducible to this subjective recognition. So this is why I would say that it's at the level of exteriority, which is prior to my experience. So for Badiou is very different. I would say that Badiou's theory of the event remains at the level of subjectivity and intersubjectivity, and it does not reach the level of the real, which is for Deleuze the site of the event.
Mehdi's talk is one of 4 keynotes at the inaugural Aragnis conference on Friday, June the 11th on Zoom. To get a free ticket, please visit our website aragnis.no. You can also submit a proposal for a conference paper until April 15th in an email to aragnis@tankebanen.no or simply visit our website. Take care and see you next time.